For decades, science fiction has depicted a future with robots around to do pretty much everything for us.
Baymax would care for us. Wally would pick up our trash. Rosie would take care of our house. And R2-D2 would do pretty much everything else.
And we did get some of that, but the current reality is a bit more complicated. I won't cover self-driving cars or Roombas in this video, but let's see what we got instead of R2-D2. These are the machines that have been used most widely. They're big and bulky, but also very fast and precise machines that cost about as much as a house. You can find them all over assembly lines and factories, and they have to be operated in cages where people aren't allowed, because they can snap you in half in the time it takes to blink.
We'll refer to those as traditional robots. They're usually controlled by being commanded to a very specific position, and they just move to that position every time. If something gets in the way, they don't really care.
The software and the tools to use them are all closed source special sauce. If you want to change anything about the hardware or the software, you better be ready to pay up.
Some companies have made robots that are meant to be used in environments that are safe for people, where they won't snap them in half. These robots are generally called cobots, or collaborative robots. Cobots are usually a bit less bulky and intense compared to traditional robots, and they can sense how much force they're applying, albeit at a low accuracy. But at least, if something gets in the way, they'll stop. They're also a bit less precise and about half as quick as traditional robots, so they're slightly more affordable, but they still start at around $30,000.
Something nice about them. Usually, you can replace individual joints if one of them breaks. Something not so nice about them. Even a single joint will put you out about $5,000. The communications interface is usually at least somewhat open and documented, but good luck understanding how any of that works. And the rest of the software that actually runs the robot itself? Once again, good old proprietary special sauce. I hear you yelling at me. You're saying, what about humanoid robots? They're basically here. I can almost already buy one. And I hear you. Let's talk about humanoid robots.
Humanoid robots have been attempted for decades, and every time we're supposed to be convinced. This time's the one. This robot that looks like a member of Daft Punk is ready to clean your kitchen. And they're certainly getting better and cheaper, but also it's not a stretch to say that they're being carried by a ton of hype. They're at a point where they can actually walk around and look like a human, or at least an alien pretending to be a human, but their ability to do anything with those hands is questionable at best. The robot bodies are there, but the robot brains, not so much. We'll call these robots humanoid robots. Compared to traditional robots, they aren't so rigid and they're generally less precise and less expensive. But the electronics and software are much more sophisticated to compensate for that mechanical slop. They also can sense how much force they're exerting more directly, so they're less likely to hurt you. Or at least, that's what they claim.
Something nice about humanoid robots. Allegedly, they won't cost as much as a house. Something not so nice about humanoid robots. They'll still cost as much as a car, and also they don't really work yet. And because every company wants to be the Apple of robotics, they're all making proprietary ecosystems, hoping you'll be locked in when they finally work in 10 years.
So, to recap, traditional robots are precise, dumb, and very expensive. Cobots are slightly less precise, slightly less dumb, and slightly less expensive. And humanoid robots are supposedly smart, don't really work yet, and still expensive.
Are you noticing a pattern yet? Everything's really expensive, everything is locked down, and no one's actually solving the problems that we have right now. All the investors are throwing billions of dollars at humanoid robots and completely ignoring the massive gap in capability between them and traditional robots. It's as if every company in the auto industry decided to either make only horses or only flying cars. But who's actually making the Honda Civic? The reliable solution that actually gets you to work every day. Robots smart enough not to crush you, but simple enough to work right now and for 1/10 of the cost. That's what I'm working on. My name is Konstantinos, and I like building stuff. I spent 5 years working as an avionics engineer at a rocket startup, and then I left to make robots for dangerous jobs. That's when I built this robot hand. That's when I hit the robot arm wall. I spent months making a capable robot hand just to realize that there's a much bigger problem. And if I'm frustrated by this as someone who makes robots, I figured it's probably also a problem for everyone else. So I'm building a robot arm. Something kind of like a cobot, but something that's way easier to maintain and modify, and also much more affordable. These are the main capabilities that I'm targeting for this robot arm. I want it to have at least a 3 kilogram payload, or about 6.5 pounds. I want it to have power loss braking, which means that if it loses power at any point, it should freeze and not just drop to the ground, potentially breaking hardware or injuring someone. I want this to have full force sensing that is actually accurate, because that's going to be really important for detecting if we've run into something or how heavy an object is. And I want all of the parts on the bill of materials to cost $2,000 or less. On top of that, it's really important to me that all of this be open source. So all of the firmware, all the schematics, all of the design files, even for the mechanical parts, are all going to be available for free.
I don't know about you, but I don't want a tool that I buy to turn into a paperweight just because the company that made it can no longer push out software updates, sell me replacement parts, or host their subscription-based cloud service. Also, if I'm even considering putting something in my home as complicated as a robot, I'd like to be able to understand everything that's going on under the hood.
Over the next couple of months, I'll be documenting the entire build. So if you want to help me make robotics more accessible, or if you just want to watch me melt some motors, think about subscribing. I'll see you again in 2 weeks.